a game changer, an event, idea, or procedure that affects a significant shift in the current manner of doing or thinking about something. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Game Changer Podcast. Join me and all of my friends as we look over different topics, ideas, look over different events, popular subjects, not so much popular subjects, even random ideas that you probably wouldn't even think about. As we dive into these things, give our perspectives as well as give our opinions about these perspectives, we give you guys something a little bit more to think about. Why? Because we believe in changing the game. Why? Simple. Because we can. Welcome to the Game Changer Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Strap yourselves in. It's going to be a wild and crazy ride. Maybe it's only going to be a wild and crazy ride because I'm behind this whole entire ordeal, but who knows at this point. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Game Changer Podcast. I am indeed NateFNGreat. I probably said this so many times already, so I apologize if I make it seem like I'm just growing a big head. We're doing a bit of something different here because usually we do this and have this released on Thursday, but excitingly enough, one of our co-hosts actually had a fun time at a convention. So she's here, she's back. Glad to have her back. VictoriBelle, the very lovely, beautiful, very talented, and also if you say anything bad about her, you're probably going to regret it. What's going on? How's it going?
It's good. Yes, I had a busy week and I really appreciate you being able to switch the cast around, so I'm excited to talk.
It's going to be a pretty awesome show. But actually, before we get into that, let me ask you, how did the convention go? How did you feel going into it, and how did you feel coming out of this convention?
It was amazing. It was really fun. A very crazy time just because I was getting other auditions during this convention. So I was having to take breaks and self-tape instead of eat or anything else. So it was oh no, but exciting because it's they're auditions. But so I worked at Sweets and Snacks, the Sweets and Snacks Expo for Hershey, and Hershey is an amazing company to work for all around. They just treat their employees so well, and everybody gets super excited about king-sized Reese candy bars being handed out at Hershey, so you get to see a lot of people, get to talk and know a lot about the candy. I could even show you, the brand new award-winning Kit Kat Duo, guys, was the new main thing for Hershey. It's a mint chocolate and dark chocolate combo Kit Kat bar. And it's actually the first time in 10 years that Hershey's Kit Kat has released a new flavor, which I didn't know this until I work with them. They always send us amazing information. But Kit Kat is not owned by Hershey anywhere else but America. So if you get a Kit Kat anywhere else, you'll see there are a lot of flavors, but they're not Hershey chocolate. So the only time you can get Hershey chocolate Kit Kat is here in America. And they're excited to release their new Kit Kat bar in December. But I got to try it this weekend, and it was the new big hit thing because it won an award. Woo!
Wow. So for those of you that think America doesn't provide anything, you're wrong. We provide excellent chocolate. So there.
Hilarious.
So when you were at the Hershey's factory or convention that you were at, did you get a lot of kisses? Did you get a lot of chocolates?
Yes, I definitely, Sweets and Snacks is one of those conventions that people come to stock up on. So I got a little bit of chocolate myself, but I also just walked around in the last day and people would give you bags of Doritos, bags of everything, and I just was holding a box of stuff, oh my gosh, so much stuff. But no, it was really fun. Cool to see the new, award-winning stuff that's coming out for all these candy companies, and it's kind of a eye-opening thing from someone who comes from conventions that are just like comic conventions. You have to know that there's actually conventions for everything, and that's something I've learned as an actress that does do some promotional modeling. I've been to so many conventions, and people are passionate about everything, including snacks.
Yeah, and I will vouch for my co-host when she says there is a convention for everything, because I actually have a boss who went to, I think it was a Cinecon, which is basically a cinema convention for movies, and he got the chance to actually watch a couple of new trailers that have not gotten released out into theaters yet. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, so you basically are telling me that you got to witness something before we did. I'm kind of jealous that you're my boss right now. But it's kind of one of those things.
That would be cool. You should try to go to that.
Honestly, it sounds like a blast. I will definitely have to look into that. So be sure to keep us, up to date, and be sure to check out our Facebook fan page, because you never know. I might just be posting that, hey, Game Changer is going to this Cinecon or something like that. Who knows at this point? But that'll be something for in the future. So you kind of hit on the idea that Hershey is introducing some new kind of candies going into this year, and that actually ties into a couple new stories that I wanted to hit last week, but we had so much great content and so much great conversation with our video game movie podcast that we didn't get a chance to actually talk to them. So if it's all right with my co-host, I would like to address the two news that I had concerning kind of some things that were related to those video game movies that we discussed last week.
Yeah, go ahead.
So one thing that, these two things actually got a lot of recognition and a lot of just likability on our Facebook fan page, where one of them that was there actually got a little bit of a debate on there, and that was Brie Larson interested in playing Samus. A lot of people might remember, Metroid, the Samus character you might see on Super Smash Brothers, a lot of other games, and when I saw this, I thought to myself, okay, well, let's see if that would... Okay, I'm kind of comparing how Samus would look in, like, the Super Smash Brothers games, when she's Zero Suit Samus, and then when she gets to the actual, metal suit. I kind of think to myself, she does have the look for it, and if I were to play, the Metroid games, I probably would get a chance to see, the kind of characteristics that, Samus would have. But in all honesty, I think she could pull it off. She definitely, like I said, she has the looks for it. I think that she did a great job as Captain Marvel. That might be the only thing that would probably conflict with that, is that Disney probably wants to try to keep her, close to them and just be like, no, you don't want to explore these other projects. You want to stay with us, nice and cozy here, because you never know. I understand. I'm basically now calling back out the slavery card. But you never know. There's always these people that are like, okay, well, we want you to sign this contract. This contract says that you're binding with us. You're signed with us for this deal. You can't do this and blah, blah, blah. So there's always slavery, because these contracts can be so very, very difficult to work with. But honestly, do you see Brie Larson possibly playing Samus in the future?
I don't want it.
You don't want
it at all. I've had a lot of discussion about Brie Larson lately, and it's not been great. I don't know if we want to get into it, but I just, after all that came out during Endgame, like, I know we haven't even talked really about her much, because it was more about, like, we talked the important stuff. Yeah, no, I don't. After what she's done and the commotion she's caused for the cast for Endgame, I think that I'd rather not have her as a strong female character again. I think she's got her fix with Captain Marvel.
Okay, fair enough. I think that we'll definitely have to go into that conversation on a future cast. But, the other thing that I had on here was that Netflix is interested in doing a live-action Legend of Zelda series, to which I think to myself, what took people so long to actually create this? Because you look at all the games that the Legend of Zelda has created. You've got Ocarina of Time, Link to the Past, Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild, Wind Wakers. There's just so many different games that you could work off, and honestly, you can tie in so many of these to this series, because the only things I think you would have to keep the same are going to be, the hero, Link, the main lead for women is Zelda, and of course the villain being Ganondorf. So you kind of have those, and then you also kind of tie in a lot of these different things that you could tie in from other universes. It could really be a very successful Netflix series that they could create. Now, of course, there's always going to be that one naysayer is like, no, it should stay as a video game. It should never see the light of day as a movie. You have to understand that we've talked about this so many podcasts that, unfortunately, they're going to try their hands on getting everything made into a movie, everything made into a series, everything made into some kind of television show. But honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of Legend of Zelda, but I could honestly see this working out very well with the right casting, with the right storylines, and with, the right kind of pacing. You could actually have a very well-received series for Netflix. And obviously, especially with them losing so much of their content with the Disney ruling, and of course Disney Plus coming out, they have to come up with different content, and obviously they're going in a unique direction, which is basically in the video game realm. So honestly, I'm all for this idea. I'm interested in seeing what they kind of present in the future. They haven't really released a release date for it. They're still kind of doing the writing. They're still trying to get everything set into motion, but there is talks about creating this. So I ask the question to you again, VictoriBelle. Are you interested in seeing a Legend of Zelda live-action series, or is this one of those things where it's kind of like a thumbs down, no thank you?
I think that sounds cool. I don't see why not. I think that I'm interested in seeing a Samus movie too. I think they both sound like a cool idea. I'm just not interested in seeing that actress in another role that she might expand her head even more. So, and I don't know if she can fit her head into the Samus helmet right now. But no, I think that Zelda definitely has a very strong following, and so far Nintendo has done a pretty good job with Detective Pikachu. I think if Nintendo can really considers to control this the way they controlled the Pikachu movie, I think they could see success, so why not?
Yeah, well, we'll just have to kind of wait and see where this leads off to. Honestly, I'm very curious to see if they actually do a Detective Pikachu sequel from this one, but again, we'll have to wait and see. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, these things are being set into motion. We'll see what the final result will be, hopefully, in the future. But all right. So, like I said at the top of the hour, we cover a lot of very interesting topics as well as random topics. This is kind of one that kind of hit me about a week ago. I thought to myself, well, something, I kind of miss seeing, certain actors. And I'm thinking to myself, there have been a lot of other actors that we've usually seen in so many different movies, and we don't usually see them anymore. So thought, let's make a list of these people that we usually are used to seeing, but never really get a chance to see that much anymore. So this is going to be a list of stars that we've seen, have a fall from grace, or they have lost their star power. Now, let me just bear this in mind that this is both on different perspectives. I'll have a perspective on what I think is a fall from grace, and obviously VictoriBelle is going to have her view on the fall from grace. So if these things don't match up, that's just because our minds are two different things, and that's why this show is awesome. So, VictoriBelle, why don't you start this one? Who is probably one of your actors on your list that has kind of fallen from grace, or kind of fallen off the map, per se?
I'm going to start out with one that is probably close to a lot of people's hearts-ish. I'm saying ish just because, if you might not have liked this role that he played, but he was a pretty big deal, in the 90s all the way up to probably the 2000s, 2009, I'm guessing. And this is Hayden Christensen, also known as Anakin Skywalker in the Star Wars films. He seems to be doing less and less leading roles, especially after the Star Wars films. We saw him a little bit in Jumper, and then possibly one other thriller. I believe it was about being awake, so it was called Awake, like during open heart surgery or surgery in general. And they were both decent roles, but definitely not money and box office hits like a Star Wars franchise had. But it sounds as though his reasonings for not being in leading roles is that he'd rather spend time on his farm in Ontario than seek out leading roles. He's really just a minor supporting character now, but I don't think there's anything else wrong with him. He's aging pretty well. He looks good still, but yeah, maybe he's just lost interest.
You know, there might be that perspective. I think that when I think of Hayden Christensen, one of the other reasons why he might have been doing less roles might have been because of all the backlash that he got from when he was playing Anakin Skywalker. Because, of course, we've seen a lot of that happen with even the recent Star Wars movies, with, you know, the Solo Story as well as Last Jedi. A lot of people have been getting a lot of flack, and a lot of actors have actually been getting, you know, cyberbullied by so many people saying, you know, oh, you don't deserve this, you don't, either your character's worth this, and blah, blah, blah. It's just one of those things where it's like, guys, stop it. They're doing their jobs. They're trying to entertain us, and I get it. You have a right to your opinion. But when you basically do, like, you know, threats on people, that's where it's like, okay, you're cut off. No, this is not cool at all. I mean, I'll admit that I was never really on the Hayden Christensen bandwagon, but it is kind of one of those things where I could see him doing a different role and him having, you know, another point where he could have had, you know, that star just shining in a different way other than being Anakin Skywalker. But, you know, if he's happy with where he's at, then that's fine with me.
Yeah, I mean, I just noticed that he's just MIA now.
Yeah, because I do remember he was like in a couple of random like movies. I think he was even with one with what was his name? With Machete. Was that Jumper or was that a different movie?
I don't remember.
It might have been Jumper or something like that. But I remember
Jumper was the one where he had those like powers that he could teleport, and it was a decent movie. It wasn't bad, but I don't remember like are you talking about like the actor who does Machete?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember him being in it.
Okay, so it's probably a different one because I remember him and Hayden Christensen doing a movie together. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to hear that. I'm actually going to start off a bit strong on this one because this was actually the guy who kind of really inspired this list to even take fold in the first place, and that was Owen Wilson. This is a guy who throughout 2000s was definitely a huge comedic genius. Whenever you saw him on a movie, you knew you were going to get something good, whether it was The Wedding Crashers, whether it was The Night at the Museum deals, whether you saw him in Starsky and Hutch, teaming up a bit with Ben Stiller with Zoolander. And there was even a point where he was definitely considered to be one of the roles in Tropic Thunder, but unfortunately he dealt with depression, and unfortunately it got to the point where he was actually contemplating suicide. That press got out that he actually got booted from Tropic Thunder, and that's where Matthew McConaughey took his spot. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why he's still not doing so many roles as much. He's probably still battling with that depression. Maybe he's just taking more time to kind of focus on himself and really find that self-happiness and be able to spend time with his family, with his kids, just being able to make him a better person. I mean, he'll appear every now and then, but gosh, it was just really cool to see him in so many different movies, but then to see him kind of fall out of the radar, it was just like, you know, where is this funny guy that we always like to, you know, talk about? Like I said, I've never really had a bad thing to say about Owen Wilson. I know a lot of people love to, you know, mock his way of saying wow, just, you know, like wow, 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 wow. Or just, you know, some of his other great roles. Honestly, I thought that some of his roles, like I said, that I mentioned before, were great. They weren't like Academy Award winning, but it was still one of those things where it stood out because he was a great character.
Yeah, no, I've always enjoyed Owen Wilson. Not my favorite actor, but yeah, whenever he was there, Marley and Me, he was very cute, like, you know, like right. Good setup. Yeah, I don't know. it stinks when people are going through stuff. So I would say that if he's struggling with depression, that he should focus on himself. Don't worry about working. Like, make sure he's okay first.
Definitely. I will definitely say this. You mentioned Marley and Me. I think that would be the closest for a performance of him to get an Oscar because, I remember him not really doing too much in the way of comedy. He was definitely being a serious actor, and it was a different side of him. So, honestly, he could be one really good role away from getting that. So, let's hope, maybe he has a resurgence. Maybe he finds a way to get back into Hollywood, finds a really good role that, can fit not only his comedic style, but also maybe that serious style that he's possibly looking for. You never know. Because I think he could be a future Academy Award winner. It's just, finding the right role for him.
Exactly.
But who, Victory Bell, do you have for us next?
I think the next person I would like to talk about, who we've kind of not seen on the big screen anymore, would be Jessica Alba. So Jessica Alba definitely has fallen off as a lead lady. She used to be like the number one pick, I think, in the 2000s to be the beautiful but intelligent woman, even, playing superhero roles like, oh my goodness, I'm forgetting Susan Storm. There we are. I'm like, why am I forgetting the name of the superhero from the Fantastic Four? She's always been considered one of the hot lists on Maximum and People. But now the reason that we have for her not wanting to possibly audition and do these main lead roles isn't because she's not quote-unquote hot anymore, but she's a successful businesswoman. She's the creator of the Honest Company, and they provide safe and environmentally friendly household cleaning products for, pets and kids. So if your pets and kids get in on these cleaning products, they're not going to suffer from some toxic poisoning and possibly die. So she's really more on the entrepreneurial, really inspirational, that she went from being just someone in TV roles that were mostly comedic to me, and now she's doing the best she can by helping provide families with safe products that won't harm animals or kids.
Nice. Yeah, I could definitely see, her definitely having that kind of situation where she just really wants to focus on that, and it's for a really good cause too. For her to basically say, "Hey, I care about the safety of animals and children," that's pretty hard to basically say, "Hey, you should give that up to, do acting again."
Yeah, well, and the cool thing is that she's a CEO of a company now. She doesn't have to. One thing that I think was interesting about a book that I recently read about acting is that if you have anything else that you would rather do, anything else that you're super good at, anything, do that. Because acting is hard and acting is a struggle. And it's very intriguing. And I think Jessica Alba took that note and been like, okay, I have a great business idea. I've started enough roles that I have the money to fund my own project right now. Why not attempt to do this? I'm smart enough. I've done all the research, and I feel like I'm well-funded enough to take on this venture, and I think she did. And as we all can tell now, the rest is history. She is somebody who is making still a bunch of money, doing honest and good work for her community, and she's inspiring others to do the same. So instead of just acting, she's now doing something that's a little more consistent and probably a little more profitable on her end.
No kidding. So this next one that I have here is another one that does, again, involve depression. And this one I'm actually reading a lot more on. It actually deals more with not only mental anguish, but also physical anguish too. And the guy I'm talking about is Brendan Fraser. A lot of people remember him from, the Mummy movies. A lot of people might remember him doing a couple comedic roles. I remember he was a pretty interesting character on the TV show Scrubs. and his character was maybe a few episodes, but you still remembered him for his presence and just for his deal. And one of the reasons why it seems like he definitely has this decline in his career and you don't see him that much is because there's been a lot of bad publicity that's gone on with him where he assaulted Philip Burke, who was the president of Hollywood Foreign Press Association, and he went into a deep depression because of that incident, his divorce, and then you also have him going through several surgeries over the past 7 years, including a partial knee replacement, laminectomy, and a vocal cord surgery. So you have all of these physical aspects as well as every single bit of depression and anguish. That definitely does tell you that he's probably not going to be doing too much of that because he's got to try to find a way to either A, take it easy on his body, or B, find a way to find that inner happiness. And I believe he's trying his best to get back into just getting his life back on track, getting things taken care of. But a lot of things can change. You can't always just say have this kind of drug problem and then the next day say I'm done with drugs. It takes years to do that, and maybe it's going to take years for Brendan Fraser to get back onto that horse. But as long as he's happy and as long as he's able to be in the clearer mindset than what he was before, I think that's what really matters.
Yeah, he was definitely one in the 1990s with The Mummy that was huge for me. I thought he was really funny, pretty attractive, but after the Looney Tunes stunts and everything, he kind of just fell off for sure. And it's sad that I'm just glad they have something to say about it. It would be more sad in my mind if he didn't have any issues. And it's oh man, he just isn't getting called in. That's sad. But if he has, again, struggling with depression, okay, work on yourself. That makes sense. Do you? Your life is more important than being an actor. So that's all I could say, I guess.
Yeah, honestly, though, I will say this, that you bring up that Looney Tunes movie, and I could think to myself, yeah, if I was an actor, I'd be pretty depressed after that, because I'd be thinking, dude, I was kicking ass and taking names with mummies and doing all this action stuff, but now I'm working with Looney Tunes, where literally I'm just doing slapstick humor and stuff like that. What is my career? What is going on with this? I mean, not to knock on the Looney Tunes, but I will say this, that was not one of the better movies. All I just remember from that was walking away with my head just shaking, just wow, this, they seriously just dropped the ball with this one. Probably the only redeeming quality of that was Steve Martin's character, but that's about it.
That's really funny.
So, guys, we're going to take a little quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to continue this deal of talking about other stars who have definitely fallen off the map and fallen off the radar, have had this fall of grace, and also kind of talking more positively about what they contributed to the acting world. So definitely, guys, stay tuned. It's going to be a very interesting show, but it's also going to be a very great show to talk about. So we'll be right back. Hi, I'm NateFNGreat. You know what's really fun, you guys, is just spending some time creating wrestling moments, whether it's being in the crowd, cutting promos, or just really kind of beating each other up with a chair or a trash can. Well, let's just say that there's a safer way to doing that without using the actual chair or a trash can. Go over to Great Minds Revolution Incorporated. My buddy Kurt has actually created a very safe and fun way to be a wrestling fan without the necessary lawsuits of basically beating each other up with real stuff. He has an inflatable chair that is really fun to just whack around, and it can also double as a little floaty for a pool. He also has the inflatable trash can, which, you guys, is really awesome because let's say maybe you don't want to use it for wrestling matches. You could use it at your barbecue, your next big tailgate party, whatever you could think of. Great Minds Revolution, Inc. They do a great job on making wrestling fun again. Proud friends of the Game Changer podcast. I came to Hey guys, this is NateFNGreat. Hey, have you ever wanted to be a champion but can't seem to really find the money and the time to get a championship belt? Well, you know who's a really good friend of mine? AJ from AJsBelts.com. These guys have a large assortment of championship belts, from classic belts to the modern day belts to championship belts that you would not even believe. And guys, like I said, they work with you very well. With an awesome layaway program, there is no way that you can beat these guys' prices as well as these guys' deals, especially when you can give them a little bit of money every now and then until you can get that championship gold. Coming from a guy who's a champion and a game changer, I'm indeed NateFNGreat. I'm representing AJsBelts.com, proud friends of the Game Changer Podcast. You're listening to the Game Changer Podcast here on Spreaker.com. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Game Changer Podcast. I'm NateFNGreat, joined here by Tori, and we're here to remind you that basically you don't want to always believe critics because they're not always right. Let's face it. So let's go into continuing, of course, our list of people who have kind of fallen off the radar, fallen off the map. Tori, I believe that we are in your court now. So who have you got for us?
All right. So next, I decided to go with the one and only Tobey Maguire. So we all know Tobey Maguire from his amazing portrayal of the first ever Spider-Man on live action series. And I think everybody really enjoyed Spider-Man 1. Everybody pretty much enjoyed Spider-Man 2, and then Spider-Man 3 happened. But just in general, Tobey Maguire and one of the most famous, I think, A-listers that we know of is BFF Leonardo DiCaprio. They've been close for so long, and you would think that if they have kind of similar looks a little bit about them, but sadly, Tobey Maguire has not been getting those roles that he was getting in the 2000s. Ever since the days of Spider-Man, he's done very little on the big screen, but now it seems like he's opting to do and pursue voice acting. I don't have kind of what he's been doing recently. I can't really tell you what he did recently. I don't know if he was the voice actor in the Spider-Man multiverse, but in general, he's kind of just gone away, and that stinks.
Yeah, I think the only other time that I saw him after the Spider-Man movies was probably... There was like that one mock trailer at the beginning of like Tropic Thunder where he and Robert Downey Jr. kind of had like that weird monk deal that... I know I'm making it sound really weird, but it's more bizarre when you actually watch Tropic Thunder at the very beginning. Yeah, other than that, it's like... Yeah, I can't really say that I've seen Tobey Maguire, so... yeah, honestly... It is kind of one of those things where maybe he was one of those guys that, he peaked with Spider-Man, and then everything since then, maybe people were just, typecasting him as the Spider-Man, as, just kind of this character. But, it does kind of suck that he's not doing too many more movies than he should be, because he is a pretty good actor. Like we've said, Spider-Man 1 and 2, really great movies. Spider-Man 3, well, everybody's got to have a pitfall every now and then. And that was kind of his. Toby, we love you. We understand you had so many different ideas for this. This was just one of those things where it's like you probably didn't need to do the emo hair and dance. It just no, thank you. Just no.
Yeah, not the coolest.
No, but we're going to slowly, casually move on from that. So for my next pick for this is actually somebody who has recently kind of come back into the limelight, but has definitely kind of fallen from the starlight actually pretty early, and that was Frankie Muniz. A lot of people remember him from Malcolm in the Middle. He did 2 Agent Cody Banks movies, if I'm not mistaken. Big Fat Liar, that's right. He did a lot of these, random like kids films, which weren't really that bad. They were just not all that memorable, to say the least. It was kind of weird. I was thinking, you don't really see Frankie Muniz going on that much. But one reason as to why he hasn't really been doing too much of these does involve his health. Because in 2012, he actually suffered a transient asthmatic attack, which has also been described as kind of like a mini stroke. So he actually had 2 of those back-to-back years. And, in some interviews he said, he has no health issues, but he came back on Dancing with the Stars a few years ago, and he's actually admitted the fact that, he's kind of suffered some significant memory loss, which includes losing memories of his childhood acting days. So,
wow.
The unfortunate thing is that it's probably the reason why he's not doing too many acting roles as of late, is probably because of his health. And that really sucks, because Frankie Muniz, like I said, he can be a very funny actor. He got, 2, I think it was Emmy? Yep, he got an Emmy nomination as well as 2 Golden Globe Award nominations. He definitely is one of the funniest guys, and it really sucks that, he had that health scare, because strokes are never really anything to be, joked around with, whether they're small or big. Those things are lethal. So the fact that he's still with us, that is just one of those things where it's like, thank you, Frankie, for still being here with us. And thankfully you're going to give us, many more years of great moments. But it really does suck that, that his health is definitely taking a toll on his memory.
Yeah, he was amazing on Dancing with the Stars, by the way. I'm a Dancing with the Stars fanatic. He did a really good job. He actually was runner-up, which no one thought he would even get anywhere near the end, but he was runner-up, and now he still goes on the show often. Obviously, the show doesn't come on until, I think, September or something, but he was, part of the show this season, too, by, hosting some of the kids' stuff with the winners. He went on tour with the Dancing with the Stars people, so people are still pretty loyal, I think, fans to him. And even though he hasn't progressed as an adult figure to anyone, that's the problem. And I think that's the danger of being a child star, is you looked very childlike when you were probably 16, 18. We hired you to be a child. You've been your child, and then hopefully we're hoping you grow up and kind of turn into a man. And as somebody who does subcasting and stuff, I would never cast him as a lead anymore, because he still looks like a little kid. Even when he grows a beard, you're like, what is that? Is that dirt? Oh, that's his beard. Oh no. So he just needs to find that his new type. His new type is not going to be the lead role. His new type, he's a nerdy little guy who might be getting made fun of, and maybe he'll have little roles in movies that's what he belongs in. He's a very small, very not built character who still has a baby face at, what is he, 30-something now?
Something like that. I'm going to double check on that really quick.
Yeah, I know he's relatively old to still look like a kid in high school.
Oh my gosh, he's 33.
Yeah. Yes. So it's I know. So it's just it's an unfortunate thing, but they're not going to cast a 33-year-old to play a 16-year-old. It's just they have way better options to do it. So I think he just needs to find his new niche and know what roles to go in for. And he's obviously a talented actor, and they just need a new role needs to pop up. That's the Frankie Muniz role. That's for him. I don't think the health scare is something that really took him out of acting. It obviously didn't take him out of competition. So I think that he just needs a role to pop up that is his role to fill.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, VictoriBelle, who's next?
Okay, I think the next person I want to talk about, I think I'll choose Cuba Gooding Jr. So in the 90s and the 2000s, he's Show Me the Money in Jerry Maguire. That really was his big role with Tom Cruise. He was in Ice Dogs or something like that. He was really the comedian that everybody talked about and hilarious. He also was, I think, nominated for an Academy Award with Radio. His portrayal of a man that had, I don't think it was Down syndrome. It was just a form of, I forget. It was either autism or a form of Down syndrome. And he played it really well, and it was a football movie, and everybody really rooted for him. But it was his last role that I could think of. And then he's been gone. Apparently, Gooding Jr.'s most recent role was an online video game called Quest for the Code, which focuses on a juvenile asthma management.
Really?
Which, what? But, sadly, he's just gone, and we don't understand. He had Oscar buzz, and then he's gone.
Wasn't he also in that, what was it, like that, I think it was like an HBO or Netflix OJ movie or something like that?
He might have been, but again, it didn't do anything. Nobody watched it, nobody cared, and, I mean, if you either have to be an amazing, awesome, phenomenal actor in a role like that, or somebody who brings people to want to watch. And I think I'm not saying he's not a good actor. I think every role he's had is different, and he was hilarious, and he was great in Jerry Maguire. I just think that for some reason people stopped caring. And that's a scary thing as an actor. People would rather not. Your movies aren't something I want to go see anymore. And it's what? That would be the saddest thing. Why? I don't know. I don't remember any crazy tabloids. I don't think he had that much of a drug problem. All actors kind of struggle with something once in a while. But I think he literally just fell off.
Yeah, he kind of did, because I remember him, I do remember Snow Dogs or Ice Dogs or whatever that movie was.
Yeah, Snow Dogs, I think it was.
Okay,
yeah.
Snow Dogs. Yeah, he did a really good job in that. I think I remember, me and my brother, we actually always watched that movie. It was a lot of fun. But I remember he also did, was that Daddy Day Camp? Because I think he took over for, Eddie Murphy or something like that. Again, like you said, nobody really seemed to care. And
Eddie Murphy's another one, dude.
Well, that is
just
also true.
Bringing up comedians that don't work anymore. I'll have another one later, but I didn't think of Eddie Murphy until you said Eddie Murphy.
No, you are right. He kind of does. They kind of do fit in the same boat, where it's there's some roles where it's he's really good, but then there's others where it's I don't care. Like for Eddie Murphy, he literally had to take the form of a donkey in order for people to be oh yeah, he's funny. And then everything else is just kind of okay, whatever.
Well, all of his stuff back in the 80s, 90s, I really liked Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy is freaking hilarious, and what an amazing stand-up comedian. But yeah, they just and Daddy Daycare, I thought was a good movie, and a lot of his Disney stuff that is very kid-friendly. The Nutty Professor wasn't Disney, but that stuff was good. That's what started the whole let's have one guy be multiple roles, like, because that's what the comedians wanted to do. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why these people fall off. I would think that if someone as famous and notable as like an Eddie Murphy and a Cuba Gooding Jr. falls off, I would think there's something behind it, as in like maybe they're hard to work with. Maybe they just can't bring the star power. Maybe they're not getting to set on time. Maybe they just don't try very hard. I don't know. But from what I heard, Eddie Murphy is somebody that everybody wants to be like Eddie Murphy, like during stand-up. So it's very sad if something like that happened. I know he had a clause in his contract that like you couldn't talk to Eddie Murphy on set unless Eddie Murphy talked to you, which seems like, whoa, why would you have something like that? That sounds like, wow, he's uppity. But when you hear the stories behind it, you're like, oh, like Eddie Murphy is a huge A-list star that if once he walked out of his trailer on set, everybody would try to like talk to him or get his picture or be like, can you do this voice for me? Can you do this? Can you do that? And he's attempting to work on his acting role. Like when you walk out of your trailer as an actor, you're going to the set to perform. And if you're getting stopped by hundreds of people, that would take me out of it. Yeah, like if you're memorizing your lines, you have your character, you're in your zone, and like people are like, can you do the donkey voice? Oh, can you do the Coming to America? Like, can you do this? Like, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm about to, like, I'm at a job. Like, I can't do that. I'm getting paid to do something else. So that's why the clause that was in there was that he needed to focus and do what he was paid to do. So it's just sad. Hopefully it's nothing, like, hopefully they didn't get blacklisted or something, but
I hope not either. So I'm going to kind of make things a little bit interesting. I'm going to change the tide a little bit because I've definitely gone into the male perspective. Let's talk about some of the females that have definitely been kind of falling off the map. One that kind of stood out to me was one by the name of Shannon Elizabeth. A lot of people remember her, of course, for her performances on American Pie. She was also in the Scary Movie, very first one. She also was featured in that 70s show. I think there's a lot of people that definitely would say that she was kind of the first woman to kind of have, the looks of an actress, but, some of her acting quality was just not exactly the best, but it was definitely, tolerable, to say the least. I think, as years went on, she has definitely gotten better. But when you see one of the reasons why she doesn't usually do too many acting roles, I kind of look and see that she actually does quite a bit of charity work, mainly against animal cruelty. She's done things where she's, talked against animal poaching, where she talked about, actually there's one where it's kind of things that kind of make you a little bit chuckle. Sorry if I'm a horrible human being for saying this, but she did this fundraiser where she had a thing called Adopt a Turkey, which is basically, adopting a turkey instead of having one on Thanksgiving. It's a great idea, but at the same time, who really wants to adopt one of those things that are so stubborn but also really dumb? I'm sorry. I think that there's a reason why a turkey's put on Earth, and it's not to be adopted. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of turkeys, bottom line. But yeah, for her to kind of be more focused on that, it does take a lot more time and effort to do that, because you kind of have to not only, fund that, you not only have to put a lot of your attention on that, you have to go to these certain places to talk about, why this is such a huge deal. Like, one of the recent things that she did was she talked about rhino poaching, which a lot of people, need to realize that there's a lot of these animals that we really love. They're slowly going extinct because of poachers, because a lot of people want to have their furs or their teeth or their, everything that's going on, everything in their bodies, their guts and their stomachs, blah, 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 everything like that. So for her to actually be one of those people that is going out there and actually saying, hey, this is not something that we should tolerate, we have to fight against this, that's actually really cool. And it gives me like a newfound respect for Shannon Elizabeth. She's not the greatest actress in the world, but she is one of those women who is trying to go out there and make a difference. I can respect that.
Yeah. I kind of consider Shannon Elizabeth kind of the typical 90s actress. They pick a model who is beautiful, has a nice body, and attempts to throw her into an acting role, an acting position. Almost, I'm going to go out on a limb and say almost like Tara Reid and stuff like that. You know, they're there for their looks, they're there for their body, and if they act pretty decent, it worked. But they can't really go outside the box of how beautiful they are and stuff like that because their acting chops just aren't there, like you were saying. So when they age a little bit, I think it's when they age themselves out of work. I don't even think she looks very old or anything like that, but she's aged out of the work that she was hired for. So like most models, they're done after a while. Like I know Tara Reid still tries to do some stuff too, but it's like she doesn't really have the acting chops for it. And the tornadoes, yes, that's why she's hired for Sharknado, is she doesn't need to be a good actress. It's just hilarious. So I agree. I think it's nice that I know she comes to a lot of conventions still because she's that type of, like, I would call her like a C-lister maybe, now that people still want to go see and be like, I loved you in American Pie. And she's like, oh, thanks. Because that's all she's done that people, like, she's not doing anything else, so why not make money on conventions? I think that's cool, connecting with your fans. And like you said, the fact that she'll use the platform that she has, her own notoriety, to try to make a difference in the world, I think is only admirable. So I think that's great for her. I think if you have this platform and you want to use it as something that is bigger than just acting, like Brie Larson does, you totally can. You have the choice to do that, and then people have a choice if they want to like what you're doing or not. Like you said, you're like, I don't think the turkey thing's really that great. Like, you're like, what are you going to do? But, hey, you're going to put yourself up for, some scrutiny if you choose to throw your politics out there.
I mean, I can't say that it's not an original idea. I mean, a lot of people, of course, have had those ideas of, hey, adopt a tiger, adopt a sheep, adopt, this animal, stuff like that. So at least give her props for being original. It's just one of those things where it's like, adopt a turkey. No, thank you. I'd much rather it be off this road. Thank you very much, because those things can be very stubborn. And this is going in a totally different direction. I need to get off the turkey subject.
I love how you're like, I don't think people understand how dangerous turkeys are, but definitely adopt tigers.
I will adopt a tiger over a turkey, but that's also because tigers are cool and turkeys are stupid. Anyway, we're moving on. We are moving the freak along to the final roundabouts to our list of people who have kind of fallen off the map, fallen off the radar. Tori, VictoriBelle, who you got us to start this closer with?
Okay, I think I decided I wanted to close with I feel like one of my all-time favorite comedians, which is Mike Myers. And it's funny, you were talking about, Shrek with Eddie Murphy as Donkey. He did the Shrek voice. I can't even do Shrek. How do you do Shrek? It's like his fat bastard. It really is, because on Netflix, they recently released all of the Austin Powers series, and that literally made me think, like, come on, Mike, where are you, buddy? Like, Austin Powers was such an icon back in the 90s and even all the way up to the 2000s. I mean, he had Beyonce Knowles, like, co-star with him. Like, he had Beyonce with him. Like, that's how big Mike Myers was at one time. And like I've also said with Eddie Murphy, he's the guy who decided, well, I'll cast myself as 7 roles. I'll do that. That sounds great. But it seems as though, I mean, we both did talk a little bit about Mike Myers this coming year when he was in Bohemian Rhapsody. But the fact of the matter is, like, we hardly even knew he was in it, because he just played a minor role that might have had about approximately maybe 9 minutes on the screen for the whole like 2.5 hour movie. And that was the manager who kind of screws up with them about the whole song. He didn't want Bohemian Rhapsody to be the song that he turned out to be, so he got fired. But yeah, he completely vanished from film altogether, and you can find Dr. Evil sitting in his director's chair. That's what they say on this website. So maybe he's focusing a little bit more of the other side of the camera, like not being in front of the camera, but being behind it. But I haven't really heard of any films really that he's directed that have, you usually notice, like you're like, oh yeah, Mike Myers, or the director was so and so. Oh, cool. But no, like it's super sad to me that he's just gone.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of, like you said, you mentioned a couple of, great films that he's done, Shrek, Austin Powers. We have to definitely put in Wayne's World in there, otherwise somebody's getting mad, like, wait, dude, you forget about Wayne's World, one of the greatest things of all time. And that's where he, did the whole Bohemian Rhapsody deal. Yeah, yes, we know that. That's why I'm saying it, and plus I had a lot of people during the day say Wayne's World, so that was easy for me to remember. And
that's probably the, let's be real, that's probably the only reason he was in the movie of Bohemian Rhapsody is because of the, like, why not throw him in there? They helped make it a really popular song, but that's even worse, like, oh, he didn't get it because they wanted him to be the Irish guy who denies him. They're like, oh, let's just have him in there for a fan service, and that to me is like, that would be the worst. Like, oh, I didn't get it because I'm good.
Right. Yeah, and to be fair, he's also had his fair share of rough movies. I mean, Love Guru, I think, is probably one of those movies where it's like, yeah, he probably would want to get that off his resume. But although it is kind of funny, he did do a Saturday Night Live intro where he talks a little bit about the interview, and he talks about all the issues that are going on with America. He just says, he actually makes this joke like, if you really want to torture people, just do what I did. Put in the Love Guru. It's just like, it's like, okay, he's able to joke about it, so at least he's got that kind of sense of humor. But yeah, Mike Myers is definitely one of those guys that still had, so many great comedic deals, but yeah, you barely see it that much of him. Maybe it's just because some people are not finding him as funny, or maybe it is due to the fact that they saw really bad movies like The Love Guru or Cat in the Hat. I mean,
oh yeah,
moving that one away. It does suck. I'm hoping that we do see Mike Myers back again. I know that he's kind of been talking about bringing Austin Powers back for one more run, which I'd be all for. I mean, why not? I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, you kind of do have some loose ends we need to tie up anyway, because at the end you see, Seth Green, he's got the bald head and he's doing the maniacal laugh and he's doing that. It's like, wouldn't that actually be kind of cool to have, Austin Powers in the modern day where he's basically just, talking about, tweets and stuff like that. That would just be funny. I think that it's one of those things where, people are actually trying to bring back the Animaniacs and kind of tie them into the modern day world too. Again, they would be the same way. They would make fun of all, the messages, the social medias, that stuff that's going on with the world. It'd be great to kind of have, Austin Powers kind of poke fun at that too. Where he's like, yeah, baby, whenever I wanted to poke someone, I would literally go up to them and just poke them. With your finger? Well, more or less. Something like that.
Yeah. No. I definitely think, maybe that's what they're doing on Netflix. Maybe they're, like, testing to see if people are still interested. I could definitely see that being a really smart idea, because I've already watched them all on Netflix again. I was like, when I saw Austin Powers pop up, I was like, no way, I haven't watched these in, like, 10 years, maybe even longer. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But I loved it back in the day. It was so cute, so funny. And I played it, and it's still pretty funny. Like, I still laughed at it. It's just, like, a lot of sexual innuendos that it's like he turns back to the camera like, huh? Did you get it? And you're like, I did get it, Mike Myers. And, like, all of the, like, awkward situations of, like,
oh, no,
where
I've
they're
gone
in the
cross-eyed.
shadows. What?
Where he tries to, like, figure out time travel. And he goes, "Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed."
Yes. Or like just in general, like when they're always behind like a screen, and you get to see they do like the shadow comedy where like him and like Mini-Me strapped to his like chest, and like it looks like he's having Mini-Me as a baby. And the people like on the other side are like, "Oh my god, what is going on?"
Oh my gosh.
It's really funny. I love it, and so I would love to see him back, but who knows? Who knows what'll happen?
That's true. All right, so the final one that I actually had for my list is another interesting one, but she was definitely a pretty big inspiration, especially during my childhood, and that was Hilary Duff. A lot of people remember the Lizzie McGuire series. They remember the Lizzie McGuire movie. Casper Meets Wendy was her very first role. She did a lot of these, random roles here and there. Hell, she even guest starred on an episode of George Lopez. Yeah. No, twice. She did that twice. Look that up. She was definitely one of those people that, would just pop up every now and then, and you would see her. She was in the Too Cheaper by the Dozen movies. But then she kind of just fell off the face of the earth. She just kind of really didn't do much. And a lot of people might say, well, she's been in this movie, this movie. It's like, really? I don't know what these movies are. And the same thing could be said about all these actors. They could say, oh, they've been doing this movie, they've been doing this series. It's like, do you see us really talking about these things? I mean, we talk about a lot of these actors, and we remember their great works. And when it comes to, what they've been doing nowadays, we're talking about the fact that some of them have been doing greater works, or they have been focusing on themselves. Hilary Duff is kind of in the same realm as Shannon Elizabeth. She's been doing a lot of, philanthropic activities. She was actually one of the first few celebrities to really donate when Hurricane Katrina hit. She actually donated $250,000 for the victims that were there, which equaled about 2.5 million meals to the victims of that. She also works with, against animal cruelty. She's also worked with the Johnson's Baby Cares campaign. She did a public service for the Think Before You Speak campaign, which was something that was a infomercial basically doing something for anti-LGBT, vocabulary, and just really making a difference out there. It's really cool to kind of see that. So it's kind of nice to see that, the girl that we kind of grew up with the Disney Channel is still going out there putting smiles on so many faces and just really trying to make a difference again. So it's really cool to see that, for a lot of people that can say a lot of things about, the drama that maybe a Selena Gomez or a Miley Cyrus can do. For us in our generation, we can look back at some of these celebrities that we had and say, hey, Frankie Muniz, he was great at Malcolm in the Middle, and nowadays he's been, killing it on Dancing with the Stars. Hilary Duff, she was really good in Lizzie McGuire, and now she's going out there making all these differences. Shannon Elizabeth, not just a pretty face, she also has a beautiful heart. And also, I want to state this for the fact, if I ever meet you, Shannon Elizabeth, I'm going to be that one person that says, I loved you in American Pie, I loved you in Scary Movie, I also loved you in That 70s Show, just to show her that she has a lot more variety than just being the hot girl on the screen. She definitely does have, some talent to her. I'm not gonna, like I said, I don't think she's the greatest, but she is definitely one of those seemingly likable persons. If there's all these celebrities that still go out there and decide, hey, I still want to see the fans, even if some of them are just like, oh yeah, I liked you in this movie, I always thought that you were hot, and just basically think, wow, they hit their puberty when they saw me on the big screen, didn't they? It's like, yeah, I'm sorry.
I think that Hilary Duff is actually somebody that is almost like Jessica Alba. Like when I talked about Jessica Alba, Hilary Duff chose to do more of the businesswoman side of things. She's a designer. I know that her and her sister do a bunch of either clothing, necklaces, jewelry, all that, purses. I definitely have bought some of her stuff before. She's pretty talented all around, and I think she did kind of choose to be more of a businesswoman now than anything else, because maybe she isn't seeing those roles pop up that fit Lizzie McGuire type. Because as a child star, like we said before, sometimes you kind of get typecast, and if you don't grow out of it, then you kind of get stuck into it. But this might not be that bad of a thing for her, because I've heard this multiple times, and it is a true thing that Hilary Duff says a Lizzie McGuire reboot is in the very new stages, and there is a prospect of it. So she's probably going to be playing another version of her iconic character, Lizzie McGuire, just as an adult, and it would probably be for an adult audience. So we might be seeing Lizzie McGuire come back onto the main, the big screen in the next couple of years or so, and I think people like you who are a big fan probably would be very excited about that.
I don't know if I'd be a big fan, but I definitely will give her credit where credit is due. When it comes to Disney Channel icons that definitely kind of hit home, I think Lizzie McGuire, Hilary Duff was definitely one of the higher ups on there. That I don't remember seeing her too many having tabloids or something like that where it's like, oh, she was doing this, or she was getting drunk and she was doing drugs and blah 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 blah. She definitely seemed like she was raised right. She was a good, clean cut girl who definitely had her head on straight. So it's really cool to see that there are still celebrities that are like that. So
yeah.
So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode of the Game Changer podcast, where we look at a lot of people who have kind of fallen off the face of the earth and found a way to grab onto them and bring them back up to us. We would love to see a lot of these actors come back again, maybe do something great, maybe do something, maybe even make some kind of cameo that will just be really good and make us remind us that, hey, remember when they were in this movie? Remember when they were doing this stuff? They were really cool. Just having that kind of stuff. So, with that being said, for VictoriBelle, I've been NateFNGreat. You've been listening to the Game Changer podcast, where we talk about a lot of pop culture stuff, a lot of wrestling stuff, or anything just random that comes into our head. Why? Because we can. Have a good one, you guys, and we will talk to you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.